a Thursday morning, we chug along with you. Thanks, everybody. Paul Ihander and Max Goren with you this morning. Appreciate you making us part of the routine. I know there are lots of drop-offs as people get used to a new routine, as things get back to a little bit more of a normal today, not just for your lives, but for the sports world as well. But we're going to start a little bit with a little Canes potpourri, shall we? You remember the game show Jeopardy? You know, the 6 categories, Alex Trebek and now Ken Jennings across the top. It's like words that begin with the letter A and recipes of the Great North and grape things. And then potpourri, just the random things that kind of get dropped into the bucket that you want to think about when it comes to the Carolina Hurricanes. And one right away, there is no news on one Mr. Alexander Nikishin. That remains in limbo, on hold, wherever you think it might be is where it is. Remember yesterday, late in the show, I had a little nugget for you that the Stanley Cup celebration would be in Kamloops, British Columbia on August the 13th with Logan Stankoven, 15 years after it last showed up in Kamloops, August 13th. Well, we found out yesterday that the Stanley Cup Summer Tour begins Saturday in Montreal with William Carrier. And the reason why we know this nugget is because last night we got the picture, the first official photo of the Stanley Cup silver chalice. The ring has now been engraved with your Stanley Cup champion Carolina Hurricanes. They are allowed 55 names. They were given 53 to put on the cup, notably towards the bottom in reverse alphabetical order, Sean Walker. Sean Walker is the last name on the Carolina Hurricanes 2025-2026 engraving. The first name is the team owner, Tom Dundon, followed by 6 more Dundons of the Dundon family. Now, I'm going to put this to rest right now. This will end here. I will not have another discussion about this for the rest of the summer. Next year, or the year after they win the next cup, or whatever it is, Tom Dundon could have had a favorite goldfish when he was a young boy, and it could have been named Jimmy Neutron 1. And he could have had another goldfish that said Jimmy Neutron number 2. And he could have had both of those placed on the cup. You want to know why? Because he's the team owner, and he can. And so there's been a little bit of scuttle about how Mr. Dundon has included the names of his family, who are all essentially team owners. And this has been impressed upon me because apparently, like, Venus Williams' daughter owns part of Angel City FC. I'm like, she doesn't sign contracts. What sense does that make? But they still consider her an owner of the franchise, even though it's not in her name. Tom Dundon owns the Carolina Hurricanes. He could have placed his favorite dog on the cup, as far as I'm concerned. He could have placed the nickname of his first car. I don't care. You know why? Because it's not the names, it's the whole of the parts. It's the sum. It's the team. It's the franchise. The franchise gets to celebrate this. And for the best argument I can make for this, the Stanley Cup is entrenched in tradition. They add a ring, you put the names on it, it's a thing. And then you get to take it on tour, you hoist it, it's the most challenging trophy to win in sports. But the other thing that comes along with the Stanley Cup is not just tradition, but superstition. So for everyone complaining about the fact that Mr. Dundon has 6 more family members on the cup, and that's ridiculous, how do we equate that with players not touching the cup or not touching a Prince of Wales trophy or any sort of trophy leading up to the Stanley Cup? That is just as ridiculous. And I'm sorry, traditionalists, it's silly. It's the Madden curse of the NHL. You don't get to have it both ways. You just don't. And I'm sorry, it's going to chap some people wrong. They're like, oh, there's a million other people that work in that organization. You know how many people were on the ice for the team picture? I think Max might know. I believe it was like 200 on the ice in front of the trophies. Maybe it was double that. I can't remember. They only get 55 spaces. Someone's going to be left off this cup, no matter what it is. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I think the biggest, I guess, player that had an argument to get on that didn't get on was Joel Nyström, playing 39 games of the regular season. Of course, the automatic cutoff, I think, is 42. so he was just shy of that. But even then, like, I can see. I guess I can see putting at least Delorier on instead, just because
he's on there.
Yes,
Delorier's on there.
What he's brought to the locker room. Clearly, they've embraced him. They like him a lot. They've re-signed him to come back and be a part of the NHL roster. Whereas I guess they're not sure if Nystrom will be able to make the jump, even though they signed him to a contract extension as well. Yeah, look, it's a little bit more blatant than in the last couple of years. Some other owners and teams have kind of snuck family on there. Tom Dundon's not afraid to just let it be all out, top front and center. The first 6 names or first 7 names or whatever it is are just the family. So, look, I don't think anybody that's really deserving got left off. As long as everyone from the main NHL roster, the main roster that made this happen, got on, I don't think there's any injustice served here. Again, Nystrom, I think, is maybe the only exclusion that could have an argument as to he should be on there and didn't make it on. But again, most everybody who played an important role in making the Stanley Cup happen got on the cup. So I'm not too upset about.
There's a small space
about the engraving.
There's a small space. There's a small space right next to Mike Brown's name, right before the roster starts, right before Jordan Stahl, who was, named captain. And it's weird how they engrave it. If you haven't seen the picture, we did post it to our social channels. Jordan Stahl is first on the list, and he's listed as captain. But the captain abbreviation comes after his name, so it looks like Captain Sebastian Aho, and Jordan Stahl's name just happened to be shoved in there, and they forgot, oh, crap, he was the captain. But I guess that's how it works. And Freddie Anderson's on that top line. I mean, as weird as you could say it, it's top line. Jordan Stahl, Sebastian Aho, Freddie Anderson. I guess they could have put Stormy's name on there. I mean, he was kind of, really important to the franchise when it came to, being a part of the Stanley Cup run. Like, Stormy could probably... you know what? If they don't make that a skit next year, I would be sad. Stormy was like, seriously? And he could just, look at the cup and turn it around and be like, nope, I didn't get on there. And he could just throw his hands up and go, oh, whatever. At least I got a date with the Vegas Golden Knights witch. There you go. Something like that. So the cup's been engraved. The tour starts on Saturday in Montreal with Will Carrier because, they engraved that thing north of the border. So the journalists who work north of the border got first crack at seeing it first. And that's who will get it. Hopefully it makes a trip back through Raleigh. Somebody will bring it back through here. There are 53 names on this cup. So maybe it'll come back through here at some point before opening night, which we will find out next week. So there's part of your Canes potpourri. Here's a little bit more of it, too. Apparently, everyone decided to drop their end-of-year videos yesterday throughout socials. The Carolina Hurricanes kind of packed it in. They said, we've had enough celebration. We knew the cup thing was coming out, so we did a 1-minute video to Petey Pablo. And it was, a bunch of clips from the parade, and there you go. It was done. Completely done. I did not realize, and I believe their 15 minutes are now finally up. I'm sorry. It's what I'm calling it. Seth Jarvis's friends apparently had to deal with the Players Tribune. And they filmed a quote-unquote, and I say that with the exaggerated air quotes, they filmed the behind-the-scenes of their travels through the Stanley Cup final. And it was 11 minutes of basically 5-6 frat brothers getting hammered. That's all it was.
Yeah.
That's all it was.
I don't mean to
How did you get paid for that?
I don't want to be the no fun guy.
I'm the no fun guy on this one.
The bit's kind of run its course a little bit, I think, unfortunately. It's fun at first. It's cool to see them there supporting Seth Jarvis. It's always good to see.
That's fantastic.
Friends of the players totally there to support. We can take all the Caniacs we can get, but I don't know how much more they have really to offer in terms of content and entertainment, because really they are just a bunch of Seth Jarvis's buddies, and there's nothing wrong with that, but at some point we got to go back to work, fellas. We got to go back to work. I understand that your bosses have a pretty lenient PTO policy, but
right.
And it's I don't know. Maybe I just don't see the appeal. And again, I don't want to hate on them because they're like, if my friend was in the NHL and I was getting the opportunity to get all these cool experiences and do all these videos and stuff, I would 100% jump on it as well. But I think it's been played out a little bit at this point.
Yeah, it doesn't Big Brother start tonight?
It does.
So
I'm ready for that.
This felt like if Big Brother had no budget and they just said, you know what, go out and get drunk. Go out and get drunk and film yourselves getting hammered. That was about it. They had the good Seth Jarvis moment in the game 2. They had that one. They couldn't film it, so it was just them jumping up and down and doing – again, I did not realize that someone paid them money to give them a camcorder or a phone or whatever it was, because it apparently was a camcorder. Like, it was just grainy. Even they admitted it right away. It's like Blair Witch Project footage. And for about a minute, it was unique. And then it was like, all right, it's a bunch of dudes holding. I get it. I get it. There's the Canes potpourri. All right, I got one more thing that I was pondering this morning when it came to the Carolina Hurricanes. And again, there's no news on Alexander Nikishin. Nothing's happened. There's no speculation outside of what we have already talked about at the beginning of the week with the Rangers deal that apparently fell through, and St. Louis seems to be kicking the tires, and there's a few other handfuls of teams that may or may not be interested in what's going on here in Carolina, and we're all waiting for Leo Carlsson to sign the deal in Philadelphia, or Anaheim to basically ruin its financial future by matching the deal at $18 million a year for 5 years. Well played, by the way, Philadelphia. Well played to screw over a Western Conference and make sure that Pat Verbeek never, ever wins a GM of the Year award. But when we talk about end of the year awards, the Jack Adams Award is given to the head coach adjudged to have contributed the most to his team's success. And these are NHL broadcasters who make this selection. So it's not necessarily media who pay attention to the entire league. It's media who pay attention to kind of what they want to pay attention to. John Cooper, the Tampa Bay Lightning, won it. Okay? He's been a finalist for many years, and he finally got it. And it kind of felt like, for Cooper, it was a Lifetime Achievement Award. And he barely beat Lindy Ruff of Buffalo, who probably would have deserved it a little bit more. And then you look at the names on the list, and you have to keep going. And you keep going past teams that all made the playoffs. And then you get to number 9. And number 9 is Rod Brind'Amour. 9 on the Jack Adams Award list. And we've hashed this out a little bit. It's like, was it 9 really? I'm like, if I had Sidney Crosby playing on my team and I was the head coach of the Pittsburgh Penguins, should I be third in this voting? Probably not. Probably not. But if I say that I have a Stanley Cup winning champion coach who finished 9th in the Jack Adams voting, do you think he could have taken any of the other 8 teams ahead of him to a Stanley Cup based on what you know now? And the 8 teams ahead of him, Tampa, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Montreal, Ottawa, Philadelphia, Boston. That's 7 Eastern Conference teams ahead of... They're, according to the NHL broadcasters, he was the 8th best coach in the Eastern Conference. 8th. And only Jared Bednar in Colorado, the only coach in the Western Conference, again, this is where I say broadcasters only pay attention to what they want to pay attention to, is the only one in the West that got significant amount of votes. He was 4th in the voting. So Rod Brind'Amour, do you believe, and you can search your own memory banks for this if you want to, we're working on a little revisionist history today because it's a Thursday in July. Do you think he could take Philadelphia, Ottawa, Montreal, Pittsburgh, Buffalo, or Tampa to a Cup final based on what you know now that Rod Brind'Amour stands for?
Not all of those teams, but some of them.
But some of them. Okay, so not all 7 teams. Pick your 2 favorites, Max. Everybody pick your 2 favorites out of those lists. Tampa, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Montreal, Ottawa, Philadelphia, Boston. And remind yourself, 3 of those teams we faced in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And you've seen them. So it's not some unknown anomaly to you. Montreal, Ottawa, Philadelphia. You've seen all of them. You see all 3 of those teams. Does Rod Brind'Amour take any of those teams to the Stanley Cup final? Do you think he can make that happen? I think he could have with Montreal.
Does he have to go against Carolina in the process in this hypothetical?
Nah, we'll take Carolina out of it.
Taking the Canes out of the equation, I think he could take Tampa there. I think he could take Montreal there. I mean, Montreal almost got there, if not to run
I agree
into
with you on Montreal for
Rod
sure.
Brind'Amour and the Hurricanes.
Yep.
And Buffalo had a really good year this year. I liked a lot of the talent on their roster.
Did they have the goaltending, though, to make it happen?
Yeah,
I mean, they're trying to trade for Connor Hellebuck right now, so they already see a deficiency.
Yeah. I mean, look at maybe it's debatable. I don't think any of the other teams really I would say definitely not Ottawa, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia. I don't think those teams had the talent to be on par with teams that make it to the Stanley Cup final, even with a coaching boost, a bump with Rod Brind'Amour. And again, it's better when he has players that are more familiar with the system and fit into it a little bit better. But I think it'd be fair to say roughly half, maybe a little less of those teams that you listed. I think with Rod Brind'Amour at the helm, they could see a little bit of progress compared to where they actually finished in the postseason.
So let's narrow this down then for everybody. Let's narrow it down to two: Montreal and Tampa. Montreal, the team that we faced in the Stanley Cup Eastern Conference Final, and Tampa, who has the Jack Adams Award-winning head coach John Cooper. Can he take either of those teams to the Cup final today? If they swap bodies, we did a full Freaky Friday thing where they shook hands and went, "Oh, Martin St. Louis is all of a sudden the head coach of the Carolina Hurricanes," or John Cooper is the coach of the Carolina Hurricanes. If Rod Brind'Amour steps into Montreal, does he take the Canadiens to the Cup final? If he does the same thing with the Lightning, can he do it there? I think yes in both cases, based on the talent, based on similar styles, and even it's strange to say, I think he would have a better chance with Montreal, based on style of play, based on speed, and based on youth. I think Tampa is a snipe of a team, but even they struggled. That's where I struggle with John Cooper. That's the only thing. Again, it felt like a Lifetime Achievement Award.
It definitely did, and because there were many years where he could have been deserving that he didn't win. So sometimes it's like Leo DiCaprio. You gotta fit it in there somewhere. You got to give it to him.
We're gonna give you.
Might not be his best movie, but you got to give him the Oscar. And before we wrap up this, I wanted to mention, since you mentioned the Leo Carlsson offer sheet, I don't know if everyone who says that it's an obvious match, I don't know if that's necessarily true in terms of this decision. The way that the relationship appears to have kind of soured between that Ducks front office and Leo Carlsson, for him to be able to go and sign an $18 million a year contract, which
without blinking.
Yeah, which, by the way, you can't blame a guy for wanting to get paid like that.
That's money you don't think about as an NHLer.
But when you sign that, you are acknowledging somewhere in that process that is going to screw over that team's cap sheet. At least if they match. The team that's offering it to you, they know what they're getting into when they offer you. They know they have to overpay to try to entice you away from your current team. But if your current team matches that, it's going to be bad news for their cap situation and how they're going to build. So, look, the Flyers had a good year. They made the playoffs. I'm not that convinced that the next 4 years they're going to make it every year. Some of those first-round picks might actually be pretty decent. They could be pretty solid. They could be in the lottery if they don't make it. I mean, New Jersey had a lot of injuries this year. They could bounce back if they're healthy. Washington's loaded up their forward core. They could bounce back into the playoffs. There's a lot of good teams in the Eastern Conference. There's a lot of decent teams in the Metro. The Rangers could bounce back. The Islanders, the last couple of years before this one, have randomly found a way into the playoffs. I don't know. If I was Anaheim, I don't know if I'm matching that offer. He has a lot of potential. Obviously, a young first-line center. Sky's the limit. Hasn't had a point-per-game season yet. 67 points in 70 games. Good player. Big body. Great playmaker. Tons of potential. If I'm Pat Verbeek, after I've already screwed this up, I think I'm not matching that. And I'm saying, Philadelphia, have fun paying this guy $18 million a year for the next 5 years. See how you can manage the rest of your roster with that hanging around your neck.
And then go sign it. And then go sign Connor Bedard to an offer sheet.
Or try to trade for Dylan Larkin, who by all accounts wants out of Detroit. I don't know what you could offer.
You'll have a lot of picks.
Yeah, but you have those extra first-round picks.
A lot of first-round picks.
And they know that you're probably desperate to trade for a center, but at the same time, you have a little bit more room to maneuver. You can re-sign Cutter Gauthier, who also needs a contract, by the way. And I don't know. I think they can maybe get back on track a little bit faster if they just let him go, which it sucks to get your second overall pick and end up letting him go on an offer sheet. But honestly, at this point, I think that might be the right call for them to be able to try to salvage their cap situation.
We'll see what happens. The NHL, a little bit on hold right now, but we do know the Carolina Hurricanes are now officially on the Stanley Cup 2 times.
I'm Max Goren with 3 things you need to know right now from 99.9 The Fan. The World Cup quarterfinals kick off today at 4 o'clock with tournament favorites France taking on Morocco in Foxborough. France's Kylian Mbappe, who has scored 7 goals in the tournament thus far, trails Lionel Messi by 1 goal in the Golden Boot race. The women's semifinals are underway at Wimbledon, where American Coco Gauff is the top seed remaining in the women's draw as she takes on Karolina Muchova, while Maria Kostyuk faces Linda Noskova in the other semifinal later today. The men's semifinals will take place tomorrow. Despite last night's loss, the Durham Bulls remain in first place in the International League East second half standings. They continue their series against the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp tonight. Coverage is available on 620 AM Buzz Sports Radio, 99.9 FM HD2, and WRAL News Plus, with first pitch scheduled for 7:05 p.m. For all the latest news on your favorite teams, download the 99.9 The Fan app or visit 999thefan.com.
Well, he was the king of Bel Air for a while, but could he be going back to West Philadelphia? Not born and raised there, born and raised in Akron, but we know LeBron James is taking a much harder look at Philadelphia. Some days, Paul Ihander here, Max Goren as well, some days it feels like we're prosecution, right? We are laying out our case for things to happen. And in this case particularly, there has been an awful lot of prosecution, an awful lot of evidence that feels like that it's not just hometown poll which will get LeBron James to make a decision to come back to the Eastern Conference, that some of it has to do with some outside factors. One of it happens to be the fact that he is a client of Clutch Sports and Rich Paul. One of those clients happens to be playing for the Philadelphia 76ers in Tyrese Maxey. Tyrese Maxey, again, laying out some of this evidence. LeBron James, you might know, has a podcast. Most sports figures do have their own kind of outlets, and he's had a very successful podcast for a long time. He loves Philadelphia's Tyrese Maxey. Called him one of NBA's best point guards right now. And if you think that he is not sitting in the crosshairs with the ownership of the Philadelphia 76ers, not sitting on that couch to make this pitch, you're sadly mistaken. Bob Myers is already out there saying LeBron would be great here. And then you add Jaylen Brown. And when the Sixers made that trade with Boston, again, has taken its criticism for that deal, and we're not talking about Boston here. We're talking about Philadelphia. That really got LeBron's attention. And so for the pull that is Cleveland, in which Donovan Mitchell is all like, dude, come back here. Let's run it back. Would love to play with you. Philadelphia has become a much more rich option, I suppose, to when it comes to where he might end up. And there is a draw, too, to South Beach. There's no doubt about it. If there's any sort of slim chance Miami could pull him back in, Giannis is the guy. Like, it would be him and not necessarily that front office. Familiarity is a good thing, right? You're comfortable and how things go, but you only have so many more options to play with star players. It's what Golden State has been dangling in front of LeBron for a couple weeks now as they kind of slowly move the chess pieces and things like that. But it feels like LeBron's biggest play is to move east. And if it's Philadelphia, you can only imagine what the odds are. And I didn't look it up, and I apologize. I'm not prepared for that. What the odds are for Philadelphia to win the Eastern Conference, let alone the NBA Finals in 2026, 2027. Last year, it was always the world champion that would lead the way. Oklahoma City was the favorite to go back and run it back. It was like plus 140. New York is still the same way, but New York now finds itself in we lost Mitchell Robinson, and if one of our chief rivals in Philadelphia lands LeBron James as not even a primary option to handle the basketball, like, that's the one question you would have in Philadelphia is there enough ball to go around and who's willing to share?
Yeah,
sacrifice is hard.
He would be like the fourth option, honestly, on that team with Jaylen Brown, Maxey, and Joel Embiid. And you've also got VJ Edgecombe chilling there in his second year, maybe making a jump. And I honestly think that's probably something he would prefer at this point is to not be like the main responsibility holder or the main attraction in trying to help them win.
He had to do that in the postseason for the Lakers with all the injuries.
And he still managed to do a decent job. I mean, they won a series still, but I think he'd prefer to be a distributor and kind of defer a little bit more and just kind of enjoy his time rather than shoulder the load of trying to make a team win and lead them to a championship at this stage of his career. So, I mean, look, it makes a lot of sense after they made that Jaylen Brown move that it could be a spot that he could land. I wonder if it's going to be there or Cleveland. Are those maybe the front runners that we see at this point? It's kind of difficult at this point to see maybe somewhere else where it seemed like the Warriors was kind of the front runner when this news first broke that he was looking for a new team. Now it seems like that's kind of pushed to the back burner in terms of realistic landing options and discussion points for where he could be going. So it's interesting to see how the conversation evolves. We'll see as it updates. I wonder when this decision will come down. Clearly, he's in no hurry. So
I keep refreshing.
Yeah,
I do.
We're refreshing for all kinds of news, but it seems like none of it's coming out right now.
Yeah, fingers crossed it gets settled. But again, as the prosecutor in this case, it feels like Philadelphia has made a very strong argument for LeBron James' services for a 24th season in the NBA. Again, we'll keep you updated on that one. Lots of little storylines here to keep us propelled through the summer.